You honestly won't believe the level of audacity my HOA showed. I live in one of those neighborhoods where the houses are squeezed together so tightly it feels like they were built with a shoehorn. Parking has always been a nightmare here. Most driveways are tiny, street parking fills up quickly, and guests usually end up circling the block. Fortunately for me, my property includes a large open grassy field right beside my house. It's undeveloped land that's technically mine, but for years it's been used informally by the neighborhood for overflow parking. Whenever someone had guests or a small gathering, people would simply park there. There was never any drama about it. It was an unspoken agreement among neighbors. Everyone respected the space. Nobody abused it, and it helped solve a problem the whole community shared. Everything worked perfectly until the HOA elected a new board president. Her name, well, let's call her Karen. Karen had two defining qualities: an overwhelming love of authority and an equally intense obsession with beige paint. If something couldn't be controlled, standardized, or painted beige, she considered it a problem. One bright afternoon, I pulled into my driveway and immediately noticed something strange. Right in the middle of my field was a brand new sign hammered into the ground. It looked official, way too official. The sign read, "Private parking, permit required. Unauthorized vehicles will be towed at owner's expense." I blinked. Then I read it again just to be sure. The sign was on my land, my field. Confused, I walked over and examined the smaller print at the bottom. It listed a phone number and a website belonging to something called HOA Parking Solutions, LLC. According to the sign, the parking fee was $20 per vehicle per day. My jaw practically hit the ground. They couldn't just take my property and start running a for-profit parking operation on it. I immediately called the HOA office. Karen answered the phone, sounding overly sweet in that fake customer service tone people use when they already know they're wrong. I calmly explained the situation and reminded her that the field was clearly listed as private property on my deed. Her response? Well, she said smugly, "Under our new community beautification and traffic flow initiative, all unpaved land next to community roadways is now under HOA supervision for safety and maintenance purposes." For a moment, I just stood there in silence. She was literally inventing rules and trying to take control of my property in broad daylight. I told her flat out that what she was doing was illegal and that I'd be contacting my attorney. Karen simply laughed. "Feel free," she replied. "The HOA bylaws give us very broad authority." The following day, things escalated quickly. I noticed several neighbors gathered near the sign, reading it with confused expressions. I walked over and explained what was going on, assuring everyone that the field was still my property and that I was already dealing with the issue. But the HOA moved faster than I expected. That same evening, just as the sun began setting, several tow trucks rolled into our quiet cul-de-sac. They headed straight for my field like vultures descending on prey. I ran outside yelling, "Stop! This is private property." The drivers barely reacted. One of them casually showed me a work order sign by the HOA authorizing them to tow any car parked there. Then they started hooking vehicles. My neighbors' cars, my guests' cars, anyone parked in that field. Chaos erupted almost instantly. People rushed out of their houses begging the drivers to stop. Some were arguing. Others were nearly in tears as their vehicles were hauled away. What had once been a peaceful neighborhood suddenly looked like a disaster scene. All because Karen decided she needed a power trip. That night, I barely slept. The image of my neighbors watching their cars get dragged away kept replaying in my mind. The next morning, I called my lawyer. After hearing everything, he confirmed what I already suspected. The HOA had seriously overstepped its authority. "Yes, you could sue them," he said. "But that process could take months, maybe even years, and it'll cost a fortune." Then he paused. "But remember something important," he added. "It's your land. That means you control access to it." A mischievous little idea immediately started forming in my mind. Revenge, after all, is best served creatively, and maybe with a little construction equipment. Phase 1 of my plan began that very weekend. I rented a mini excavator. You should have seen the looks on my neighbors' faces when I started digging a massive trench along the entire roadside edge of the field. This wasn't a tiny ditch. The trench was about 3 feet wide and 4 feet deep, stretching the length of the property. It completely blocked any vehicle from entering the field from the road. Just like that, Karen's tow trucks had no way to drive onto my property. Their enforcement operation was officially shut down. Next, I visited a hardware store and bought the heaviest industrial chain I could find along with a pile of private property and no trespassing signs. I stretched the chain across the only remaining driveway entrance and covered the area with warning signs. Some of them even read, "This land is not HOA property. All trespassers will be prosecuted." The message couldn't have been clearer. Karen absolutely lost her mind. She called me screaming into the phone. "What have you done?" she demanded. "That trench is an eyesore. It violates our community aesthetic guidelines." I calmly replied, "I'm simply landscaping my private property and improving security. I thought the HOA supported safety improvements." She threatened fines, lawsuits, and every other punishment she could think of. I simply told her to direct all further communication to my lawyer. Then I hung up, but my plan wasn't finished yet. The trench was only the beginning. During our conversation, my lawyer had pointed out a fascinating loophole in the HOA rules. While they loved regulating things like broken-down vehicles, there were exceptions for equipment used for agriculture or landscaping, and my property technically qualified for agricultural use. So I went online and found the ugliest tractor imaginable. It was rusted, dented, barely functional, and looked like it had been abandoned in a swamp for 20 years. I bought it for a few $100s. When it was delivered, I placed it right in the center of my field, perfectly visible from Karen's house 2 streets away. It was magnificent, a giant rusty monument to her failed attempt at control. The HOA absolutely melted down. Violation notices started arriving almost daily. Unauthorized equipment, unapproved lawn decoration, failure to maintain neighborhood harmony. Each letter went straight into a folder from my lawyer, and every time he responded politely explaining that because the property was zoned for agricultural use, the tractor was completely legal. Finally, I added the last piece of my little masterpiece. Remember that company listed on the parking sign? HOA Parking Solutions, LLC. I did some research. It turned out the company had been created only a month earlier, and the registered owner? Karen's husband. That was a smoking gun. I printed the documents, the company registration, screenshots of the website, and copies of my property deed. Then I organized a community meeting, not with the HOA board, with the residents, especially the ones whose cars had been towed. I laid all the evidence across a table in my garage, the towing operation, the fake parking company, and the fact that our HOA president was personally profiting from it. The anger in that room was intense. The aftermath was swift. A recall petition started immediately, and Karen was overwhelmingly voted out of her position. The new HOA board issued a formal apology to the entire neighborhood. They shut down the fraudulent parking program and reimbursed every single person who had their vehicle towed. They even paid to repair the damage the tow trucks caused my lawn. As for my field, I eventually filled in the trench, but I left the no trespassing signs up, and the tractor stayed. In fact, I cleaned it up a bit, painted a bright, cheerful color, definitely not beige, and planted wildflowers all around it. It's now a quirky landmark in the neighborhood, a permanent reminder of what happens when someone pushes a homeowner just a little too far. Sometimes the best way to deal with a bully is to know your rights, get creative, and maybe buy the ugliest tractor you can find. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.